This is the Origin Effects Revival drive. It's not just any other drive pedal, it actually emulates the whole amp setup from the preamp all the way to the power amp and everything in between, and all the sounds that the different amps have and the characteristics of these sections of the amp we can tweak and we can change depending on what amp we're plugging into. You can use this pedal not just in front of tube amps, but you can also go direct into like a power amp. In the studio, you can also go direct into the digital audio workstation, applying some cab modeling, and you'll get really great sounds out of this pedal. So what this pedal is broken up into two sections. Most amplifiers have a silicone rectifier and some have a valve rectifier. So that's what the two sections are. In the back, we can also select that. Both of them will be the silicone rectifier. The tube rectifier will give you a little more sag on the bottom end, similar to old Fender Tweed amps that have a tube rectifier. So we can toggle between the two sides, between the silicone and the valve, with this switch here, and this switch turns the whole pedal on and off. Both channels have a dry and an overdrive knob here. To the left we'll get a dry signal, to the right is the overdrive signal, and we can control the dry gain with this knob here, and same thing for both channels. And moving on to the reamp EQ, so if we're going after this pedal into an amp or into a power amp, so this is where we'll select our EQ, and you want to select the right EQ to the right amp so that the controls and the pedal sounds good into the amp. So I'm in EQ2 because I'm running into a Marshall from 1974. I'm running it pretty clean, and then we're getting all the drive sounds from this pedal. So this will give me the right EQ, and EQ1 is going into more brighter amps like Vox and other amps, and power amp is going into just a power amp. So we're in EQ2, and here we have a high shelf, so we can roll off some of the highs. So I'm rolling off a little bit of the present highs on the top end, and this is for our overall sound of the pedal. And then this is the bright cap cut, so I can tame a little bit more highs as well if I'm using the bright cap on either side of the channel. And what these are they're actually, a lot of amps have a bright switch, and so the GB setting here will give us like a Marshall style bright cap. This is a older British sound. It's for a little bit brighter amps. And also the US gives us a Fender style bright cap, which is like a Fender Twin. Also here we can select the preamp. So we have here GB, which is Great Britain, I'm assuming. So that's a British style preamp. The middle position is as well a British style preamp, and the US side is more like a Fender Twin. And so for each side of the channel, we can select the preamp and the bright cap. And as well, we have a mid control. This is a global sort of mid boost that we can turn on to either channel, or we can do it via foot switch in the back, so we can turn that on either channel that we're on. So we can select the mid level and then the mid frequencies, and we'll engage the mid and hear what that sounds like. Moving on to the knobs, we have two sections here. We have the same knobs for each side. So we have a volume knob here, which is our gain knob, sort of like on a non-master volume amp. So we turn the gain up, and it's gonna push gain into the circuit and get louder as well. And then this volume here, which is our output volume, so kind of overall volume. And this will send the volume into whatever we're plugging into after this pedal. And then we have the low end. We can tighten up the low end by bringing it up, or we can kind of back it off. And then also here is the negative feedback control. This is an interesting knob. It's used for sort of presence control as we turn it up, and all the way down, we're taking away the negative feedback that happens in the power section of an amp. So all the way down, no negative feedback is like a Vox AC30. A little bit of negative feedback is about a Fender Twin. And in the middle is sort of like a Marshall with the presence all the way down. And then when we turn it up, we're like turning up the presence of a Marshall amp. And also going into the ghost notes. So this is an interesting thing as well that happens in like a Marshall Plexi. When you crank it all the way up, something happens in the power section where you actually get ghost notes. And in the back of the pedal, we can control the switch between 50 Hertz and 60 Hertz. So depending where your amp is at in the States, or if you're in the UK, when you go higher up the neck, you'll hear these kind of ghost notes come out. And this phenomenon only happens on like really high powered amps when you crank the amp all the way up and you get these ghost notes. So we can introduce that as well into the sound. And then here we have the dry and the overdrive blend. And that's the pretty much overall look of this pedal. So we can tonally adjust all these things based on to what we're plugged into. All right, so let's check out this ghost feature here. I'll turn it down and then turn it up, and we'll hear what that does to the signal. We'll go back and forth between the rectifier and the silicone and hear what kind of sounds we can get. We'll toggle the mid boost on and off and hear how that sounds as well.